How you doing, everybody? It's the podcast about everything. We are back for another week and another episode. I've got Joe with me. Oh, I am Jake. I didn't introduce myself, but you will know that by now. Joe, how are you?
Do it again.
I like that. keep my mistakes in. Keep rolling now.
Are you sure? Okay. All right.
The outtake reel.
Don't worry. Thanks for reminding us who you are. It's always handy. And yeah, I'm doing great. Yeah, really pleased to be here on this podcast once again with you. Another week is down and we're raring to go.
Good. How you been? Everything going all right? The lockdown still treating you well? Because I know we're still going through that right now.
Lockdown is doing okay. I think that we are in a bit of a better place now that we've got a bit more freedom and are able to see the people we care about, even if it's briefly. Yeah, it's going okay. How about yourself?
I've been all right with it, but I think yesterday was the straw that broke the camel's back, and I've decided I fucking hate it. So let me tell you what happened. All right. Okay. I heard my local KFC reopened, so I thought, I've not had that in a while. I'll go get one. Mm-hmm. I got there. The queue was coming out of the car park into the road. All right. So I thought, okay, all right. The supermarket's kind of similar. I'll queue up. All right. I waited 20 minutes and didn't go nowhere. In the end, I thought, fuck this. I'm not that desperate. And I left. All right. And that really angered me that had to happen.
I feel your pain right now because that must be incredibly frustrating, especially when you've built up to having that gorgeous, succulent KFC chicken. But a couple of things I'm going to pick bones without, wanting to use a pun there with you is number one, you chose to queue. Okay. Yeah. So you're one of those people, you wait diligently in the queue. See, for me, when I get to the supermarket, similar to what you've experienced, and I see a queue, I'm like, hell no, I just find another supermarket. Now, I know you can't do the same with KFC, but you wanted KFC that bad that you chose to wait.
Well, because whenever I go to the supermarket, I'm only in the queue for like 5-10 minutes at a time, like no more than that. I thought maybe it'd go quick. Clearly it didn't, all right? So I was hungry, I was annoyed, and I was just fucking had enough. All right, I'm done with this shit.
Okay. Well, I'm going to also put it out there that I reckon that KFC has the slowest service of all the fast food giants.
You reckon?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not surprised at all that you went nowhere for 20 minutes. Whenever I go to KFC, it's always a long wait. KFC seems to take forever. I don't know. Maybe it makes the chicken taste better that you wait longer. I just don't know.
Well, you can't mess around with undercooked chicken, all right? As a man who's had salmonella, you just don't want to do that, okay? So they got to take their time. It's for the safety of everybody. Anyway.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Anyway, enough of this gastronomical talk we're on about and my hating of everything. Let's introduce today's subject, this week's subject. It is education. Now, we're going to take a trip back into the past like we like to do on this podcast. We're going to start from the beginning as we always do because we're not like George Lucas. We don't tell a story the wrong way around, okay? I've got the ump about that as well, by the way. Anyway, so we'll start at the very beginning, I guess is primary school. Your first steps into a different world, you might say. What do you remember from your first the first times at primary school? What do you remember from that?
Well, primary school for me was a bit of an up and down journey. One of my earliest memories was joining the reception class halfway through. Okay, so I don't know whether they still do it, but back then they used to get the kids who were born sort of second half of the school year to join a bit later. And I remember finding out that my best buddy in the nursery class was actually somebody in the year below me. And my first memory of primary school was probably like pure devastation, finding out my best bud was no longer going to be in my class with me. It's going to be a year below, and we weren't going to spend every day together. So it was like the school of hard knocks back then, right? Yeah, to experience that loss at such an early age. That really sticks out to me. I mean, I don't know if you ever experienced anything similar to that at such a young age.
I think to me, right, school in general is where my first ever sort of feelings of anxiety came on. I mean, I didn't know it then, all right? It's not until I look back at it now, the feelings and the way you're feeling about stuff. Definitely, I'd say that was my first brush of anxiety. You're going into a place where, okay, you might know some of the kids or you don't, I'm not sure. You're away from your parents for the whole day, whereas before you were at nursery or play school and it was just like a couple of hours. You're introduced to this new sort of routine, all right? You've got this woman at the front of the class who commands the whole class. It was all very, very, very traumatic, I'd say, at such a young age. Yeah, that's my first memories. I also remember loving home time. That was the best time for me. Home time. It means I could get out of that place for another day. Uh, but yeah, it was quite a change. But I think, to me personally, one of my things that sort of stands out the most about primary school was the TV that was strapped to a wheelie trolley that they would wheel out as a special treat at times to watch some weird program like Words and Pictures or something that would teach you how to write a letter with a magic pencil, right? Because to me, I didn't see that as education time. I saw that as time to DOS. I didn't take notice of anything that was going on. All right?
That says a lot about you, Jake. I must admit.
It's true. It's true. It was yeah. I did enough to get through, and as you'll know from the rest of the podcast when I start telling it, but that's all I used to do, enough to sort of get myself through. But yeah, definitely that sticks out to me as a memory. And wet playtime as well. I used to hate that.
Okay.
It was raining, so it literally like you haven't been out all day, and then they're just like, okay, you can't go out for like your hour break or half-hour break, whatever it was. So you got to stay in and do indoor activities, which was usually something like colouring, and I hate artwork, so you know.
You needed to run around that playground, didn't you? Playing Kiss Chase or or something like that, didn't you? Put off some energy.
If you saw the size of me at that age, then you would say yes, I did need to run a bit more, but I didn't.
So what were you doing at playtimes if you weren't running around?
I don't know. All the kids would all bring their toys in, and we had some like little rockery bit, and everyone would just play with their action figures on the rockery. You know?
Okay. So you like to play in a sort of dormant fashion. You'd like to be sitting in one place playing with toys.
Nothing's changed. You know, I like fun on my terms now. I don't want it on other people's.
Yep. You still like somewhere quiet where you can sit down and play with yourself, don't you, Jake?
That's disgusting.
That is not intended in that way, but take it as you will, people.
Will you reel it in? All right, we're talking about school and stuff.
Well, anyways, yeah, I mean, those memories, I suppose, they're really stick in your head, don't they? Those particular moments of something when it wasn't going to plan, like a rainy day when you should be outside playing. And I've had a brief experience as a teacher, which we'll come on to. And one thing they say about the young'uns, for some reason, when it's windy, kids behave in strange ways.
Was that true, or?
I think it's true. I mean, kids seem to lose their shit when it gets windy. Like, they play up. I don't know why. They sit in class, and like, believe me, the worst thing you can have in a classroom is windows for kids to look out of, because seeing leaves getting like thrown off of trees in the gusty wind for some reason is fascinating for kids. They can't concentrate on anything, and I'm sure we were the same. I mean, trying to keep concentration as a youngster. No wonder they had to wheel out the TV on the big trolley just to keep us engaged, because, you know, putting us in front of a TV, it felt like a bit of entertainment rather than listening to your teacher all the time.
Well, yeah, it was, because it was a break from doing something you didn't want to do, I guess. But then, even then, she'd then make you go into the classroom after you watch this Words and Pictures and show her how to write the letter P 4 or 5 times.
You're saying that how dare they make us do work? Is that what you're saying?
Not that. I've just been sitting there for 10 minutes with my finger in the air, trying to spell it out and stuff. Right now, I've got to go in and write it.
Yeah, that sounds about right, Jake. I mean, I'm not sure what you were expecting back then. You expecting to have a break after that to play with the action figures?
It was exhausting. It was an exhausting time. Exhausting and traumatic, you might say.
Well, I would agree on that for sure. Those words you use, exhausting and traumatic. And particularly for me, I mean, you know, I was bullied as a kid. Yeah, I'm not talking about anything physical. And I suppose when I look back on it now, it probably wasn't all that bad. But yeah, I was teased and jokes were made at my expense. And funnily enough, you know, that can happen anytime in your life, be it young, be it old, be it in the workplace or in a sports team, wherever you might be. And it was tough times being at school and being a kid, and it being emotional and being hard. And I think that we had it hard to an extent going back, you know, nearly 30 years ago. But it's even harder for kids nowadays, you know, with social media and having an internet presence. Back then, you know, if someone was going to take the mickey out of my portly size, it would be within the hours of 9 a.m. until 3:15 in the afternoon, and then I could go home and eat some more, you know. So nowadays it's just relentless. I do have some sympathy with the kids today, you know, even though they don't have to go through the telly on the wheels, they just have like the projector in the classroom, right? Because this is
that's right
now. So
exactly. And I don't know about you, but I remember that it was always a huge honour at my school to, now you've mentioned projectors, you just sparked something off my head, to during assembly to work the projector which projected the words to the song you were singing in assembly onto the front of the wall. That was an honour in my school. If you were asked to do that, you felt like a king. All right.
No, definitely. And it wasn't just any projector, it was an overhead projector as well.
Overhead projector with the big light, and it was like a big metal monstrosity with a big light over the top, and it would shoot it out to the wall, and you would see the guy's fingers or the girl's fingers as you start, they're trying to push up the words as we're singing to keep it in time, you know. And I remember being asked to operate the music system during assembly, which was basically not as technical as it sounds. It was turn the music up when the kids come in, and when everyone sit down, turn the music down. You know, that was a big thing.
It's something about you and fiddling with knobs, which sounds about
you
right.
need to stop making jokes about me and male genitalia, all right?
I was talking about the knobs of the CD player, Jake, or probably tape player back then. I'm not sure which, but
I
but yeah.
feel you're now making jokes at my expense, all right?
Wow. So, but yeah, you talk about the singing at school, and that's quite funny, really, because I guess, I mean, I don't know, you tell me, but we did a lot of singing at school, particularly primary school, because I went to a Catholic school, right? So we had the hymns that we had to learn. Now, I don't know about yourself, whether it was the same, but there was just like, we had regular singing.
Yeah, every assembly there was singing, and it was a hymn. It wasn't a Catholic school, but there was singing. I even joined the choir just to get out of doing Friday morning projects.
Okay, so that was your route out of.
Yeah.
What were these projects? These Friday
I don't
morning
know, but looking back on it, I think maybe I should just stuck with the projects, because you could choose any topic you wanted and just do a project on it, and you'd have to do it throughout the year. Then at the end of the year, you would present it to the teacher to see what she would see what you've been doing every Friday morning. But no, I chose to go to the choir and lip sync at the back.
Okay, I was going to ask you, did you manage to learn, any sort of good singing techniques in the process?
Only the warm up, which was Lenny the Leopard likes licking large lemons. So I don't know.
Okay,
make that what you will.
that clearly stuck with you all these years.
Yeah, it's to get you warmed up apparently, but
Okay.
I wasn't there for the right reasons. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Well, I used to love it, absolutely love it. And like yourself, I was part of the choir, and we would do singing at the church, which was really good fun. So I do remember distinctly, we'd have probably a good sort of 6 or 7 solid hymns that we would know as a year group. So we'd practice them, we'd rehearse them in the school hall. And then anytime there was a big religious ceremony or festival, we'd go to the church, okay, which was like a short walk, like a 2-minute walk away, and we would perform them in the church during a service, right? But we had a bit of an issue, right? Because just down the road was the other primary Catholic school, and they were like our big rivals, okay? So the only way that we could, because apart from odd occasion when we played them in a football match or some sort of sporting event, the only other time we could assert our dominance as the best Catholic school in the local high street was to beat them in the singing stakes, okay, at the church in the choir.
It sounds awfully like Glee.
Well, I'd have to take your word for it, but it was like who could hit the best harmonies, who could sing the loudest, and the teachers, they were in on it, right? Because they knew the only way they were going to get us through all these choir coaching lessons was to make it into some kind of competition, like the school down the road. They're harmonizing in 2 different ways now. Unless you guys shape up, they're going to put you to shame. So it was very much a competition against the other school, and it made it good fun. And we'd exchange dirty looks from our set of pews across the church to their set of pews, and they'd look at us with absolute content, who are these guys trying to outsing us? And it was great. It was just absolutely brilliant. And in the end, the rest of the congregation just got this, wonderful sounding, harmonizing songs from these 2 schools. And it was all for us. It was just all a massive competition. So
are you saying the teachers sort of all in on it as well then, just trying to sort of stir it up?
What I say about teachers is that, generally speaking, I get the impression that they'll tell kids whatever they need to tell them in order to get them to do whatever they need them to do. So, you got to appeal to their what gets them interested, right? So for us, it was that bit of competition, and that got us like, okay, well, we want to be the best. So it got us involved. It got us trying harder than what we would have done normally.
Okay, I mean, none of what you said there sounded tough at all. We were in the church just staring at each other, looking to, destroy each other on the choir floor, you might say. Just literal, a battle. We're in a battle of the bands in a way. A battle of the choirs.
Yeah, it was. But we've got to remember, it's Catholic school. It's all about peace and love and treating
Yeah.
others as you wish to be treated. So,
Until the teachers indoctrinate you lot with competition and make you want to just destroy the other team, which is fine. It's healthy. It teaches kids competition, I guess. I mean, the closest I ever came to singing at school was the famous school plays, which were always a delight because once it was all done and the Christmas time thing came along, you'd all spend the whole day watching each other's plays. And I had to sing a solo one time. I was Santa Claus in a school play.
oh,
I was quite a chubby kid, and I remember someone saying, "Yeah, they picked you because you were chunky." I was like, "Great." My mum made me a costume, and so that I could look fatter than what I already was, she took a belt and strapped a pillow to my belly under the suit, just to give the effect of being a fat Santa. So that was I would say that's my only thing I ever did at school, and I don't even know why I did it, to be honest. At the time, I thought it was a good idea. I've never been a singer. I don't think I've got a great voice. I'm guessing me at 9 years old might have sounded a little bit more angelic.
I'm sure you did. I remember you looking very angelic as well, Jake. I've seen the photos, and I distinctly remember you from that period of time. We were probably both very angelic kids compared to what we look like nowadays. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But then the thing that sticks out the most to me at school was primary school was that final year of year 6, where things all of a sudden started changing a gear a little bit and started getting a little bit more serious, you might say, because you had SATs and stuff. Teachers were starting to set your homework to sort you get prepared for the next stage. But what I found, when I look back at it now, I laugh quite hard at it. And which my personal feelings is kids should not probably be doing sex education in year 6, because none of us were anywhere near mature enough to hear the things we heard. All right. I remember a teacher having a go at this kid. All right. Because he said, guys, let's get to the front to go and get front row seats to watch it. And the teacher went absolutely ballistic at him. All right. I'm just like, wow. I don't think any of us were really ready to see what we saw. All right.
Well, again, to bring you back to my Catholic roots, we did not get that sex education at primary school. No, yeah, it was not
everyone was doing it. I thought it was just a whole year 6 thing across the board.
Well, it's not something we experienced. So unless it was because of some kind of quirk or something that took place, I didn't get that until I was at secondary school.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, I understood certain things through conversations with kids from the non-Catholic schools, like people like you, Jake, but and other responsible sources. But no, it's not something I experienced. So I didn't get that actual proper sex education talk until I got to secondary school. So there you go.
Right, okay. Oh, well, yeah. Maybe that's better. I personally think that's better. I don't think kids that age should be having to hear it. I don't know. I mean, not that you can opt out of it or anything. I'm not sure. But yeah, for me, I don't know. I just found that whole thing quite weird. Now I look back at it now as an adult, it is a bit weird to sit little kids in front of a TV and talk to them about the birds and the bees as it was. But yeah, so let's move on to the next stage of the education, which I think is probably, in my eyes, probably one of the most important, and where I'd say most of the skills I learn or I use today were learnt, and that was secondary school. Once again, I can say the transition into that to me was very traumatic. You go from being one of the biggest kids in the school, being in year 6, into year 7, where there's kids who are a lot bigger than you and a lot scarier than you, and all of a sudden you're a small fish in a big pond. Once again, that's where another brush of anxiety came, because as a person, I don't like change, and this was one hell of a change for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. It is a big jump, and I think for me as well, I went from going to a quite small primary school locally to obviously then a much bigger secondary school, and it being quite a bit further away from home. I used to have to get a coach to school in the morning, and even that was nerve-wracking. Getting on a school coach and being surrounded by these like basically giants, that were sixth formers and the year 11s and stuff.
Pretty much adults, right?
Yeah, and you go from being like the top of the primary school, being in charge and telling like, little kids what to do, to all of a sudden being told, that you're now the little kid.
The little kid.
People telling you what to do. So it's a big adjustment to make at such a young age, that's for sure.
I remember getting my homework diary for the first time and thinking to myself, you know what, I'm gonna do all my homework on time. I'm gonna do it all the night it's set, so I've got the rest of the week free to do what I want. That way of thinking lasted maybe a month tops until I was slipping into the whole, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. And yeah, I think that was a slippery slope into like just me sort of like not learning to be punctual. I mean, always did it, but was it always to the best of my abilities? No. Could I have done better? Yes. Yeah, I think and that just comes down to me sort of starting off thinking I was going to be a great student, and yeah, I really wasn't. To tell you the truth.
It's finding where you fit in, I think, when you get to secondary school, and that can take time, and it took time for me. I mean, again,
definitely.
Me not nipping it in the bud when I should have. It didn't take long for the kids to start pointing out my rotund appearance once again when I was at secondary school. But I started to find my little way out of that was by being involved in sort of clubs and societies. So a way of making new friends, which I really enjoyed. So in particular, I remember sort of playing basketball and doing some acting. Now, the basketball side of things and the sports in particular at school, and there's all these people with different talents. And when you play something like basketball, right, which a lot of kids didn't play, and all of a sudden you're good at a sport, they take you a bit more, I don't know, they take you a bit more serious because you can do something. You've got a skill, you've got a talent in something. So things are tough when you get into secondary school.
Yeah.
But sport for me was my way out. Bit of basketball, bit of football, and it was my little escape from getting picked on.
See, I didn't have that because I'm not athletic in the slightest, at all. Like you, I was a bit of a portly lad growing up. Had big old Jack Duckworth glasses and a mushroom head haircut. So kids probably might. Oh, actually, I never heard anyone say anything as such. It probably was the old fat joke every now and then, but I don't really care. My escape out of that was basically I was in a class with a lot of bad kids. All right. And those bad kids befriended me. Okay. So then when someone sees you standing next to someone like that, no one says anything. No one even think of taking a mick because of the kids you know. Right, that was it. So it was unfortunate that I was in such a disruptive class, which probably had an effect on what I may have learned at the time. Mm-hmm. Right, but that also was my way out of basically not getting picked on at school. No one said anything because they knew the type of kids I was involved with. And we weren't even friends to the state where we were hanging out together and stuff. But the fact we were just in the same class, all right, the kids, they sort of welcomed me in and stuff. Like they had their own thing going on. They were being bad kids, just getting attention left, right, and centre. But never ever was there anything negative on me. So that was my way out of that particular situation. But I don't think in secondary school you really sort of find your place until maybe like year 10. Like year 7 to 9 is all a little bit sort of up in the air. Once you get into year 10, you sort of, I don't know, things sort of like you're in that place where you're starting the GCSEs and stuff, and you now know a lot of people because you've been there for 3-4 years. So to me personally, I feel that year 10 onwards was that's where I found myself as a person,
And I think part of that is because those year 8 and year 9 years, for me personally, I remember that was when I basically started discovering girls. Okay, started
getting them feelings.
Started getting those feelings. Starting to try and impress them by talking too much in class and stuff like that. Trying to get their attention all the time. So
peacocking.
Basically a bit of that, and also just, I suppose, trying to fit in as well, because you're going through that stage of really figuring out who you're going to be, where you're going to be, because as you get closer to that year 10, you have to make those big decisions like, what am I going to take for my GCSEs? So you're getting into the right kind of crowd, and I definitely got in the most amount of trouble, and I didn't get into a lot of trouble at school, but the most amount of trouble I got into was probably year 8 and year 9. But the same thing at parents' evening all the time, like, Joe's a really good student, but he talks too much in class. We're always telling him off for talking, and that was part of my problem, Yeah. So anyone listening to this podcast probably knows how much I like to talk. So it is an issue I'm still dealing with today.
It's funny you mentioned parents' evening, because I had similar sort of things at parents' evening. It was like, oh, Jake's like, he's a good kid in class, whatever, but he daydreams too much. He doesn't pay attention enough. He's unfocused. The amount of times the teacher said to me, do you know you could be in the top sets? I went, really? They went, Jake, you're not stupid, all right? You're not unable, you're just lazy. I was like, yeah, you got a point. So much so, all right, that we used to do this thing called target setting. So you'd have a day off school. The whole school would have it. And you'd be given a time slot to go and see your head of year with 1 or 2 of your parents, whoever can make it, whatever. My head of year, she brought up where I was doing well and where I wasn't doing so well. And my weakest subject was always maths. And so I went in with my mum, and she said, "Oh, by the way, like Jake's doing okay, but maths is where he's really sort of slipping, and like we don't know like what sort of GCSEs he's going to get X, Y, and Z." And my mum's going, "Okay, well, what can we do to help him?" The head of year said, "Well, we can put him on a behavioural report or a progress report. It was called." Now, let me tell you something about that report. That report is only usually given to the worst kids. All right, the kids have got behavioural problems. The kids are acting up in class. Right, the kids who just do not give a shit about school. All right. I get put on report because my mum says so. All right. I walk into school next day with my report. You have like a card or a scorecard, and my friends are looking at me like I'm a criminal. They're like, "What happened?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Why the hell are you on report?" Do you know how embarrassing it is to tell your friends that you had a meeting with your head of year and your mum suggested you get put on report? Awful.
Well, I'm guessing she just had your best interests at heart, Jake.
Yeah, sure, but it didn't help that my whole friends looked at me like I was a convict.
No, I suppose that doesn't help. But when you look at these things in hindsight, they all help shape you as the person you become, right? So I do sympathise with making those decisions. And I remember having a similar sort of intervention in year 10, and a teacher having a meeting with me, and they're saying that we're going to put you down a set, basically, in science. You're bright enough, but basically we're not getting the best out of you. And, I think it's probably best that we put you down a set. And it was one of those moments, similar probably to like what your mum was thinking at the time, which was just like, for me, like pride kicked in. And I just said to the teacher, give me another chance, basically. Put me on a table. I don't want to be sitting next to anybody, just completely sitting on my own, and give me a chance to prove to you that I deserve to be in this class. Unfortunately, they went with it and they gave me a chance, and I pulled through and got through that kind of difficult period. But sometimes it's those little moments that you go through, which is like a wake up call, right? And that never stops happening, right, in life.
Yeah, no, you're true. Yeah.
And I think the people that respond to it, like you did at that age, you tend to take that mentality then forward with you into your life. Yeah. And then when a bit of adversity comes up or a setback comes up, you respond to it in a positive way and you turn it around.
Yeah.
Whereas there'll be people who go through something similar to you and they just hold that resentment, or they get told they're not good enough, so they accept they're not good enough, rather than thinking like, well, if I'm not good enough, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe it was all for the best, Jake. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? How's your maths now?
Disgraceful. What did I get in maths? I think I got how I got into uni, because you had to get a certain grade to get into uni, but I got in. I'll talk about that later. I think my GC maths, I got an E the first time, so I retook it and got a D. But obviously I couldn't retake it again and possibly get a C because they just wouldn't let you do that.
Okay.
So really that whole situation could have just been ignored and it would have been fine. But who knows? Maybe I could have got an F or a U. I don't know. But yeah, my maths is not for me. It is not my forte. But it's interesting what you're saying about taking sort of things on to later life. I remember. I mean, was you ever a prefect? Did you ever go for that? Was you made one? I can't remember. I wasn't, purely because the fact that I had a grudge against prefects, starting from like year 8, year 9, because they would always tell you what to do, and I just thought it was a power trip. So that people saying you should go for it, I'm like, no, man, I'm not going for it. And then a part of me, all right, which is maybe I should have gone for it, because the prefect, you get certain sort of, I don't know, duties you have to do, and maybe I could have learned something with that, and it could have maybe helped me later on in years if I ever get myself into a management position where I would be in charge of certain things. Mm-hmm. So I regret not going for that and being a dumb kid who thought being a prefect was just a bit stupid and like didn't want to boss people around. But it was also me as well, that I don't like bossing people around in general. But maybe a time's going to come in my life where I will have to do that. So I mean, maybe I think I missed a trick on that one.
See, the key there really is to be friends with the prefects. That's the good thing.
That's true. I did have a friend with a prefect, and he let me get into a lot of places.
This is it. The prefects that guard like the canteen doors. You see, these are the best people.
That actually taught me make friends with the right people, so it wasn't a total loss.
Exactly. So, and I was very fortunate that going through doing a lot of school plays at secondary school, I had friends in all different year groups. So I was lucky to have friends that were in the years above me, sometimes 3 or 4 years above, who would be the prefects, when I was in sort of lower school. And getting on well with them was brilliant, because it would mean getting into the canteen quicker. You'd be able to get passes to maybe go to the library and stuff when maybe you were in a subject you weren't really loving too much. Yeah. So there'd be little perks to getting good friends with the prefects. And that all came about for me just from doing the school plays, which was something I absolutely loved. I was gutted that my school didn't do drama classes basically until A level, so I had to wait a long time before I could do a class that I actually enjoyed.
And you haven't stopped acting up since.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. Proper prima donna I am. But yeah, school plays were like a chance for me to be involved in doing something I enjoy, like performing, but also making friends. And I think that's another key thing about being at school. If you can make friends with people from different year groups, not only is it beneficial when it comes to stuff like prefects, but then you widen your net, don't you? And you start to learn from people younger, older, about not just life in school, but life beyond as well, particularly those older kids.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. You're right about that. But there was something you mentioned just there that's put another thought into it. You're on a roll today, by the way. You're mentioning things, and it's giving me more and more to talk about. I don't even think I need to write notes.
I'm here to serve, Jake. I'm here to serve.
You are. When you talk about subjects you really enjoyed, I remember taking my options, and I wasn't really a huge fan of like the technology side. You know, like DT, so like resistant materials, woodwork, metalwork, like food tech stuff like that. And I picked all the subjects that I'd liked, and that bracket was the last one to pick. I was like, oh shit, man! I wish I don't have to do any of these. So I thought, you know what? Because in my mind it seemed easier. I'll pick food tech. Wow, what a shock I was in for. All right, I spent the whole of year 11, okay, doing a project. So we had to pick a type of food. We had a type of food, and find different ways to make it. I spent 6 months making cheesecake. All right, cheesecake. And finding different ways to edit the recipe and stuff like that, and how to make it different. That was not easy, all right? Cooking is not easy. So if there's anyone listening who's got children, all right, and taking their options, if they're going to say, I'm going to pick that because it looks easy, the chances are it won't be. So I say let them do that and learn it for themselves, all right? That's a lesson to learn in life, okay? Don't always go for the easiest route that you think is easy, because more often than not, it isn't. None of it is easy.
You're absolutely right. None of it is easy, and I get the same thing all the time with drama. And having studied drama and then gone on eventually to be a drama teacher, kids often pick drama because they think it's the easy subject. Nope. And let me tell you something, okay? Drama is as much theory as it is about actually doing any acting. In fact, it's even more theory than acting. So anyone who says they'll pick it because they think it's an easy DOS, believe me, it's tough. It's basically English, okay, with a bit of acting thrown in. So yeah, think twice about these practical subjects. People just assume that there's not going to be any theory, and quite often the same thing with PE. And my key to B would be, if I was going to say you're going to help your kids decide which subject to take, get them to take the subjects they enjoy. Exactly. They're the ones that will be easier, and they'll be easier because the kid enjoys it. They'll want to be in this. They want to be in the room. They want to do the extra reading because it's something they're interested in. And if they don't enjoy any of them, well, then that's just hard luck. You know, you ain't gonna find any.
Life ain't easy, kids. It ain't easy. I mean, so when I think of that, I think of taking more options again, and that was for the next stage of school, which was sixth form. So you got, was it AS level and then A level? Is that how it worked? Something like that.
Yeah, that's the one.
So I picked a couple of. So I picked business because I'd been doing that since GCSE level, and you know at times it was difficult, but I felt very comfortable with that subject and really enjoyed it. I picked ICT because once again I thought, I like computers. This will be easy. It was not. And I also picked Italian, which for those who know me as Italian will think, oh yeah, you picked that because it was easy. Listen, let me tell you something. Just because I can speak the language doesn't mean I'm any good at the grammar. I can speak English, but my English grammar is crap as well. Okay, let alone in a foreign language. All right, that was very hard. Okay, that was. I found that the worst part of that subject was the grammar part of it. I suffered big time with that. So even when you move on to sixth form, you still got these choices to make. Once again, your mind is still going that way, where you're picking things because you think it's easy. Half the time they're not. But that brings me on to my next stage about sixth form, and I personally really love sixth form. That I think during the school career, that was my best. That was my best time. Those 2 years were great.
Well, I feel the same as you do, really, Jake. Sixth form for me was a really defining moment, probably in my life, and I think for a lot of kids that go to sixth form or college, those couple of years, you're really going through that process of moving from being a child to becoming an adult. And of course, you know, we've talked on previous podcasts about stuff like house parties and maybe getting your first job, which all coincide with that kind of age. So there is a real coming of age that takes place at that point. But particularly, when I think about the kind of friendships that I made in sixth form, they're very much the friendships that I still hold today. So the social element of it really came to the fore. But also then I think when you drop all those subjects and you're then just studying maybe 3 or 4 subjects that you
That's right.
genuinely enjoy, and you start to think about how you might apply those subjects to university or maybe to getting a job when you finish, it becomes much more exciting. It's much harder, I think, the work compared to maybe something beforehand,
Yeah.
but also it becomes really exciting and great fun. And for me at that point, I really enjoyed it because all of a sudden the kids who used to pick on me all ended up leaving because they weren't clever enough to get into sixth form. So that was a little bit of a win-win situation for me.
Yeah, yeah. I love sixth form. I loved it so much it reflected on the awfulness of my grades at the end of it. That's how much I loved it. You might say I had too much of a good time in sixth form,
Okay.
but it was good. There was you were at a different level. You were at the top of the school. The teachers looked at you differently. You were respected a lot more by everybody. You could wear your own clothes. You had way more freedom. Yeah, I loved it. It was the best. It also, with sixth form as well, I think you were less of a schoolboy or a schoolgirl at sixth form. You were acting way more like an adult, like you said. And I think certain things were going on which were preparing you for the next stage, as always. The teachers were less on your back as well. Obviously, deadlines had to be met. And I think, personally, that was something that I was always very good with. And I felt that if I was ever to get into a job where certain deadlines had to be met, that wouldn't be a problem for me. I never handed anything in late, so that was good practice for me for the future. But yeah, I think it was just that freedom that was so great about sixth form. And yeah, honestly, I'd say it was probably the best 2 years of my whole school life. I know I've said it already, but yeah, definitely 100%.
I think something you mentioned there, which I really find interesting, is that about the teachers, and they do play a massive part. And I think that generally, thinking about being a student, the relationship I had with my teachers at that point, it did change dramatically. They started treating us more like adults, treating us with respect. And to be fair, we showed them respect back, and that really helped. And all of a sudden, learning became a lot more fun because it was more around discovering rather than just being lectured to. So a lot of the lessons I remember being a bit similar to kind of, I suppose, what you get at university, where there's a bit more of a kind of seminar feel to it, where people are in discussion about a particular subject and you're learning through that kind of group work rather than it just being like you said, Ryan talked about primary school with a lady, usually a lady standing at the front of the classroom just dictating to you.
That's right.
It is a wonderful time, and you're getting older and you've got no responsibility pretty much most of the time, but you're in a school setting and
you're learning how to drive and your friends will learn how to drive as well. So like that helps.
Definitely. And I remember actually, funnily enough, because you start getting a bit more credit within the school, a bit more superiority, okay, and a bit. Yep. And it makes me think about actually, we started a basketball team in sixth form. And we were called the Ball Wrecking Crew. Okay, right. So still representing Ball Wrecking Crew for life. And problem was we didn't have any kits, okay, to play against other teams. So we decided we were going to raise money. Now I don't know whether this happened at your school, Jake, but there was a period of time while I was at school, and kids who were bringing in 10p chew bars, having like pockets full of them, and selling them for 20p, 30p a pop.
Yeah. Ours was stuff at another level. We had there was one guy selling fake designer socks, still in the wrappers.
Socks for real?
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. Okay. Two other guys who were selling O2 Genie Sims. So basically, what you did with that was you would put it in your phone. You would top up £10 minimum, and you would get 100 free texts before the credit ran out. So then you do your 100 free texts, and then you still got £10 to spend on calls or text. That got shut down very quick because we started to realise that the Genie Sims you didn't have to buy anyway; you could get them free.
See, that sounds to me like good entrepreneur work. Supply and demand.
What else was there? Oh, bootleg CDs as well. That was probably that was rife. There was one guy who would do it all and like just give it to his mates, like mixtapes and CDs or DVDs or whatever. But then he saw that there was more interest there and started selling them.
Jake, your school sounds more like a dodgy car boot sale.
No, they were just entrepreneurs. That's all they were. Entrepreneurs. That's all they were. All right. Just trying to make their way in life. They showed entrepreneurial spirit very early. Okay, and that may not have been taught in the school, and their business practices may not have been totally kosher. All right, but End of the day, they would have learnt it later on in life, but they will start as a stepping stone. But yeah, anyway, back to your chew bar story.
Well, the chew bars, yeah. So that was at one point really running right throughout the school, and kids were making a really good profit on it. Anyway, the school got wise to it. They knew it was happening kind of behind the scenes, and they cracked down. There was no more chew bars allowed. So, we were in sixth form. We had to raise this money for our kids. So we wrote a letter to the headmaster, say, we'd like to bring back the chew bar sales. We'll do it a legitimate way, selling sweets at lunchtimes and break times. And we're going to raise money for a new stereo system for the sixth form block, and then in small print, and kits for the ball wrecking crew. So we managed to raise this money by selling overpriced sweets to kids who probably should have been saving their money for their school dinner, and instead were just buying a shit ton of sweets off of us at lunchtimes. So we managed, fortunately, to raise the money for the kits, but it just got me thinking about that culture, I suppose, of people bringing stuff into school for sale and things that end up going viral in the process. Like, for example, do you remember the Pokemon cards?
Yeah, they were getting dealt at my school too, Money was changing hands for pieces of paper.
Pokemon cards went crazy. I remember being at school, a bit younger, before sixth form, but they're just going mad. And also the other one as well I really remember is yo-yos.
Yo-yos, that was like year 7. I remember that. Yeah, that was a thing.
And I just got me on the subject. Sorry, Pogs. You remember Pogs?
Yeah, I think that was before.
Pogs was primary school.
Primary school, yeah.
Primary school.
You'd be playing in the playground and you'd be smashing the Pogs things on the floor and stuff. The Slamite, it was called. It was the little black plastic Pog you would smack on top of the other ones. Yeah. I never understood. I just thought it was. I didn't really get Pogs. I didn't really understand what the point was. But yeah, I had some. But
I was a big fan. But it's amazing. I mean, I don't know whether these crazes still happen. I don't know whether they still exist nowadays. I mean, nowadays it's probably some sort of, has everyone got the latest app on their phone or something?
Yeah, I think it's that. I've got a cousin who's 15 and she's of that age, and yeah, it's all about the phone technology. YouTubers, they're a big thing, apparently. Influencers, so that's a big thing. But yeah, I don't think the whole selling sweets thing at school is really happening anymore. I don't think the kids have got the spirit to do it. To be honest, I don't think they've got it in them.
They don't have the patience.
No, they won't do it. They won't take that leap. It's all easier for them.
I worry for the entrepreneurs of tomorrow.
There was that lad that got suspended from school when the corona thing really broke out in England because he was charging his friends 10p a squirt of his sanitizer.
Oh, see?
Yeah. Personally,
I did not know that. That's pretty good.
If that was my son, he was like 15, 14. If that was my son, all right, I would not be punishing him for that, all right? I would commend him for such, seeing such opportunity in such a dark time, all right?
Wow, that's one way to make your money.
I already he made £9 in one day, bought some crisps and was saving up for a kebab after school. So, he was doing it to put food in his belly.
Well, that's fair enough, but you kind of, I think you get to a point in sixth form where I think generally speaking, behaviour starts to kick in, and you don't really play up anymore. I don't think you really need to play up anymore. I think your social status is set to an extent.
Yeah, you're king. You're king of that school.
Right? Definitely.
So we can say that sixth form, all in all, good experience. We all loved it. It was great. Okay, so what about the next stage of education, which was uni? That's the big one. I mean, for me personally, I didn't have a traditional route to uni, you might say. I didn't get great grades in my A levels, purely, as I said, I was enjoying myself too much. So I had to go a slightly different route. I had to do a 2-year foundation course, and then I had to do the final year at uni, and you graduate. Or you could break it up and do 4 years. So you do 2-year foundation, you go into directly into a second year of uni, second and third year. So that for me was difficult in the sense that I was in a class where all the other kids weren't from my area. So this was a lesson I was learning, how to be around different people from different walks of life. There were kids mainly from London, like North London, East London, the inner city, some of them. Different background to me. And I found it very sort of daunting walking into a class where there's kids from this type of backgrounds. And I'm thinking, crap, what do they think when they look at me? My first couple of days, I didn't like it. I felt extremely out of place. I was in a place where I didn't know anybody. All my friends had gone to their respective unis or started jobs. And I'm in this place, I'm just like, oh man, what am I going to do? And I think that's to me where I sort of gained more confidence with myself So I just started talking to people. And I think uni does that to people. If you didn't have confidence at school, I feel like uni will give you confidence because you're in that position where you have to talk to people.
It is a game changer, really, when it comes to social interaction. I think, particularly if you are from an area like we are, sort of growing up in the leafy areas of Hertfordshire, where,
Right.
in reality, a lot of the people that
Quiet.
we would, it's quite a lot of the people that we went to school with were people that were just like us.
Yeah.
And there will be lots of places in this country where that's not the case, but that's what it was for us. And it was probably a bit of adjustment, certainly for people like
Definitely.
us going
Definitely.
to unis, where you're mixing them with people from different backgrounds, different locations, and it's fantastic for that reason, because universities bring people together from all over the country at times, and
I
sometimes
agree.
internationally,
Yeah.
and you're just learning new cultures, learning about new religions, and learning about everything really that comes with being with a different group of people, and that really, I think, sets you up for life and working
Yeah.
and everything that comes after that better than anything.
Yeah.
Mixing with those different people, because it's the truest reflection you're going to have of going out into the world beyond education.
No, you're right. You're right. I think the difficult part for me was that the first 2 years was okay because I was with the same people. I then went from 2 years of knowing the same people to going to a university, being a direct entry student where I didn't really know anybody.
Yeah.
So I couldn't make those connections with people because that had already been made
Yeah.
previous to the 2 years. So I'm a stranger basically. So certain groups have been made, and I'm sort of on the outside. So I wouldn't say I had the uni experience that maybe you had, where you were the same people, I guess, for 3 years. I didn't have that. And also I didn't live out because I was at a local uni as well. So that probably went against me too. And I must say, I hated that final year. I hated it. I mean, there was people I made friends with on the course, but it was sort of just like, we're friends at uni. I don't know if we're friends out of uni, sort of thing. Just because we sort of just end up sitting on the same group, on the same table, doing the same group work. So I found that particularly difficult, and I can honestly say I think I really did not like my last year at uni. I did not enjoy it at all.
See, it's interesting hearing you speak about your experience of it, because and tell me if I'm wrong, I get the impression that that experience of university, particularly that final year for you,
Yeah,
was almost like a continuation of being at school. You were there just to get your qualification
that's right.
and to get done with it.
Yeah,
Whereas for me personally, my final year of uni was probably my happiest in terms of pure enjoyment. I was living out, I was experiencing the social side of things. Yes, there was an element of stress that came with the amount of work that needs to be done, and it is a massive jump going
yeah,
going to university from being at school in sixth form or college, and the pressure was there. But the social side of it more than made up for that, and actually alleviated some of that pressure, which I really, really enjoyed. But yeah, I mean, it depends on the course and stuff you're doing as well. And for me, I mean, I did drama at uni, and I remember my first year at uni, and the dirty looks I would get from people that weren't on my course when I would explain to them that, we just play a lot of games, basically. So a lot of my first year at uni was playing games like musical chairs,
Really?
playing games like Manhunt.
You
I don't know
kidding
if
me?
you've heard of Manhunt. It's like an adult version of hide and seek, basically.
Right.
Yeah, we'd play games, and at the time I'd be like, what am I paying my uni money for to play these games? But I realised what they were doing, on my particular course. They were basically making us unlearn everything that we'd learned in
Right.
terms of, you get to a certain point when you're 18, 19 years old, and all of a sudden, you are having feelings of pride and embarrassment, maybe distrust of people. And when you're learning to act and perform, you need to break down those barriers. So they were basically taking us back to being children. It was like being in reception again and being in nursery again. We were playing these games to make us regress, right? So we didn't have
Right.
any embarrassment or sort of
Okay.
any inhibitions. Okay,
It's
it was
quite clever.
it was
It's
quite
clever.
clever. I didn't realize it until afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Because at the time we're just like, seriously, I'm just playing games. Other people are
Yeah.
like learning about, I don't know, the specialist history of World War II
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
So it was a good introduction for me to university to have
Yeah.
gone through that, even if a bit confusing at the time. And then really just built upon there, and everything else that came with it, being involved in basketball there as well, and making a whole social group on that side of things. So, and you only have to listen to our podcast about clubbing to learn
Yeah.
more about the social side of being at uni. But it was a great time. I really enjoyed it, and by the sounds of it, it was a very different experience to what you experienced.
Yeah. I mean, there's one thing I did learn at uni. a lot of the time on the course that I was doing in my third year, there's quite a few bits of group work. We'd have to do a group project, and that helped, I think, to sort of socialise with people. But I remember doing this particular project, and I think it taught me that I think I'd make quite a good delegator,
Okay.
because there was four of us. There was me, this kid called Connor, this girl called Mandy, and we had this. He was an exchange student because at my uni there's a lot of exchange students. This guy called June. He was from Korea, and he was an insanely intelligent guy. I think the only problem he had was that his language wasn't great. So he could speak English, it was fine. I think he struggled when it come to writing. So at this point, I was like, okay, the group I've got here, they're reliable guys. You know, Mandy was reliable. She did her thing. Connor was a clever dude. I was like, this might work in my favour. I was usually in charge of like organising the group meetings, all right? And, you know, pointing out what we need to do. Like, you can't really use the term right now, but brainstorming it was called back then.
Mind mapping, we call it now.
Mind mapping.
Mind mapping, I think it's that.
I heard it was an idea shower, right? We did a lot of planning. And during those planning sessions, I would be the one sort of picking out what needs to be done and assigning it to different people. And I remember sitting there one day and thinking to myself, well, I hope these guys don't think I'm an arsehole. So I said to them, guys, do you think I'm an arsehole? And they were like, no, it's cool, Jake. Like, it's good. You're sort of, you're putting us in the right direction, what we need to do. At one point, they were all standing in front of me on computers typing stuff up. And I was just standing behind them with my arms crossed, just supervising everything they were doing. I'm like, they must think I'm an absolute dickhead. But then I was like, well, this is giving me obviously like, there's been times in work where I've had to do that, where I've had to sort of watch people do work and make sure they're doing it right. So like we like the guy June I mentioned, he was great, but his work always needed editing because his language wasn't great. So we'd get him to type it all up. And then me and the guy Connor would go through and edit it all and stuff like that.
So at least you did a bit of editing then.
I did editing. What else? I actually had my own section to do as well. It wasn't just them doing everything. I had my own section that had to be contributed to it. But from there, I did learn the whole skill of delegation. So, you know, maybe that could be a career path.
Well, at least you learned something. I mean, that's the key thing there, really.
Yeah. I also learned management skills. I managed the team very well. They were very happy. All right.
Sounds like you'd be good on The Apprentice, Jake.
Oh no, I wouldn't want to go on that. I hate the people on that. We also had to do the presentation as well. So I said, you know what, guys, I'll do the presentation. I don't mind. So I did that too. So, you know.
Listen, you managed to delegate the task, get the work done. That's the most important thing.
We got a decent mark, so I was happy with that. Maybe I could have put more effort in. Maybe I couldn't have. I don't know. we did okay. We got through it, and that's what mattered. As a team, we got through it as a team. All right. I might actually look them up, you know, see if I can find them again.
Get them to do your housework for you or something, yeah?
Maybe.
Delegate some chores to them. I mean, it's funny, group work. A lot of what we did on my course was group work for obvious reasons, you know, being that it's drama. And I just used to find would always end up with at least one person in the group who was totally unreliable, and just would always, couldn't make it.
It does uniting.
Yeah, can't make it to rehearsal. Oh, I haven't read the play yet. There's always one person who basically doesn't put the effort in, and you're having to carry them through. And I know for a fact there was people on that course. They ended up getting degrees, basically being carried the whole way through. So that's the only thing I think sometimes when you're at uni and then all of a sudden you're in massive classes. You know, there was like 4 people in my drama class when I was at school, and then at uni there was over 100 people in my drama class, and then all of a sudden you can hide, you know, when you're in classes that size and working in groups. So that was the only one sort of downside, I suppose, to being so many kids in the class and trying to find a way to stand out, is that, you know, sometimes you end up having to carry people through their course.
Our lectures at uni were huge. Like, it was in like a theatre type thing. It was massive. Absolutely huge. And even that, compared to the 2 years I did before in my foundation degree, we did not have that many people. We had lectures, but the lectures were maybe 30 people. You go in from 30 people to like 100 people, and it's just like, wow, okay, this is very different. At that point, I realised I was way in over my head. I scraped through. I got a degree, but would I do it again? Probably not.
I'd definitely do it again. And certainly playing the games in the first year, I would have just done that for 3 years and hopefully get a degree at the end of it. So it was a real degree, people. I'm being honest.
I mean, worst comes to the worst, you could have become, I don't know, like a a kids entertainer or something.
Yeah, or a drama teacher. That didn't go down too well. So
You tried.
I tried.
And that's
I'm
what
not gonna. Yeah, I'm not gonna go in too deep about teaching. But one thing I'll say to people, it is hard once you've been out of full-time education for a while, like I was. I mean, I left uni, and it was like a good 10 years before I decided to become a teacher. It is hard getting back into being a full-time student again. So anyone that does it, massive props to you. It is. I would say, I'd imagine anyway, it's a bit easier to do straight out of uni, becoming a teacher. But then equally, if you go after having some experience of actually being in jobs and learning what it means to work with people and then become a teacher, that can be quite handy as well. But full-time education, boy, no way. I don't think I'll ever want to go back to that again.
No way. I mean, shout out to anyone doing I don't know, a part-time course right now, or obviously we're in lockdown, maybe it's an online one, but I did a part-time course 2 years ago. I went to learn Spanish. The course was, I think, almost a year. I lasted 6 months. I went in with the best intentions. I gave it 6 months. I realised I didn't really enjoy it. I said goodbye.
Was it the grammar, Jake? Did the grammar get you again?
It was hard. There was the things that she was telling me, all right, I'd not even learned in English lit or English language, all right? Like subconjunctive verb, is it? I don't know what them is. My teachers never taught me that. And she was telling me stuff. I said, I'm sorry, I said, but my English teacher's got a lot to answer for because what you're telling me, I don't know even existed in the English language.
Yeah, blame the teachers, Jake. That's the way.
I honestly never heard that. I never heard anything. Right? But what was good about it was that I think I'd paid for the course. The course was already paid for. I did 6 months worth, and it was just like, you know what? There's no one here keeping me here. All right, no one's making me do this. I'm done. I dropped the mic on it, and I was gone.
Nice. Well, there you go. That's an experience in itself, isn't it? And you never stop learning. That's the thing.
No.
Never stop learning.
Like us, we're learning to do this podcast. Maybe we're doing good. Maybe we're not. Do we care? A little bit.
Yeah. Oh, I'd say so. And your comments are always welcome, people.
Yeah, exactly. Don't flood us with too much negativity, though, because I'm a very delicate man. With I'm a delicate flower. It doesn't take criticism too well. Okay, so if you're going to be horrible, all right, be horrible in a nice way. Okay, guys. So that was education. I think we've covered most of it. Anything you need to add, Joe? Anything you think you need to say?
Well, the only thing I would add at the end of this one is that it's a journey, and hopefully people will look back on their own life in education, and they'll look back on it with positive memories and they'll smile. And hopefully they've taken it with them. And it's not just about what you learn in the classroom, but also what you learn outside of the classroom. And they use it in their lives one way or another. But you never stop learning. So just keep soaking it up, keep adapting, keep changing, and that will keep you successful. I really believe that.
Good. Okay, guys, that was it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was some sort of
educational.
Education. Yeah, it was an education of some sort. I hope you can even relate to some things we're saying, because we've all gone through school. We've all gone through a form of education in our lives. Okay. So if it keeps you laughing, it keeps you smiling during this dark time, okay, we're going to keep coming with a comedy. All right. Thanks for listening. It's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
See you later.